still work together. They still have to work together for things, but it's not really.
So I see you're from New York. You live in New York City? Are you from the area? Or? Oh, shit, nice. Okay, right on. You're from Queens? Nice. Right on, right on. What got you into following the Gators? Gotcha. Oh yeah. That's and that's badass, bro. That's awesome that you got to do that. It's cool as hell that you got your football side up and running too. So that's I mean that type of that being able to like you know do work for like something that you love and something that you actually like really have an interest in away from the office. It's not even work at a certain point. It's just like it's I did it for I don't do it for a living, but to do it just like on this small scale, it's mad fun. It's super. It's just fun as hell. It's fun as hell. It's just talking football. It's just talking football, talking ball. Hell yeah.
I can't wait till this draft is over, man. I am so done with draft talk, but guess what? We are going to be doing more draft talk right now. What's going on, everybody? Alongside with Manny, I'm Antonio. Man, this is Breaking Tackles, the Giants podcast, and we got a special guest, man. Uh, and before I introduce Brandon, I just want to say, Brandon, it's been amazing watching you grow, bro. Like from 3 years ago, we met in Bleacher Report's headquarters, and it's been amazing to watch you grow as a person, brother. Just how are you? How's everything going? And what's going on, man?
Man, it's busy season. We've been growing for a while now. Both of us here. We've been
Absolutely.
making some stuff happen, but it's busy season. Draft is always crazy. This year's probably been the busiest that I've ever had. But
Good.
it's one of those things where I mean, at this point, we're talking football, dude. Like I don't care how busy it is. At the end of the day, our work is watching and evaluating football. So I'm not gonna complain
Exactly.
about it.
Exactly. And Manny, what's going on with you, brother? How's everything going today?
Man, I'm just like you, bro. I'm excited that we're 8 days today on 420. We are 8 days away from yeah, just the date. We're 8 days away from the NFL draft. If you watch this tomorrow on April 21st, we will be exactly a week away from the NFL draft. I think we're all super excited. I think we're ready to start
Can't
actually
wait.
analyzing our dudes. But I'm real excited because for most people that don't know, Brandon
Yeah.
actually is born and raised in Queens, huge Florida fan, went there often, is the founder and analyst at Whole Nine Sports. You can
Yep.
catch that at Whole Nine Sports on Twitter. He's the host of the Locked On Giants podcast. Oh, excuse me, the Locked On Gators podcast, going over everything and all Gainesville related. If you know Patricia Traina and her Locked On Giants, this man is the authority of Gainesville. So we appreciate you coming on, man.
I'm about
Absolutely.
to start using that as my intro. I'm about to start throwing that in every day. I'm about to just start being, I'm the authority of Gainesville, baby.
Hell yeah.
Nah, that sounds pretty good, man. Brandon, so the hot topic, and obviously the Giants general manager Joe Shane actually spoke about it. We'll get back into it, by the way. Uh, Joe Shane came in and he already said his piece about it. But I want to go a little bit more complex with you because I wasn't really looking at draft stuff it's because of Manny that I'm actually looking at I'm really invested in this offseason. I'm more of a guy, and you know this. It's let me see the X's and O's. Offseason, that's when I take my vacation, but this year was a little bit different. Manny has inspired me to do Giants 24/7. So, with that being said, what did you think? I'm going to take a year back. What did you think about the Tony pick for us on the first round? Was that a reach? Was that talk to me about that?
So with the Kadarius Toney pick, it's very fun because last year was my first year covering the Gators
Mm-hmm.
and lifelong Giants fan here. So, and I do a live stream every draft. So I do a live stream, and the Kadarius Toney pick did not get spoiled for me. They were like, you know what, you're gonna love this Giants pick. Like just watch it live, and we're gonna catch your live reaction. And I lost my mind. I was so excited. I was yelling. I was like, Kadarius Toney. I was yelling about it. I'm so excited because I'm that new school of football. I'm into scheming your guys open, getting your guys the
Yes.
ball. Like Debo Samuel is I love that. I love how he's used. I love how I don't know who is going to get used by McDaniel down there in Miami, but someone's going to have that same kind of role. They're going to
Maybe
be fun.
Jalen Waddle. Maybe Jalen Waddle.
Maybe Jalen Waddle, maybe
Mm-hmm.
Tyreek Hill. They got
Mm-hmm.
Lynn Bowden Jr. over from Kentucky last year, the rookie who played receiver, running back, quarterback, all for Kentucky's offense. You
Holy.
might have some fun with him. There's a lot going on, and I love that offensive weapon type, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
Kadarius Toney is. A lot of people call him the gadget. Fooey. Gadget is so diminutive to
Yeah.
use for a term for football. You look at Randall Cobb when he first got with the Packers. That's how I wanted Kadarius Toney to be used. I want him to be used on these sweeps. I want him to be put in the backfield every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
Randall Cobb and Percy Harvin were kind of those first
The
guys that were
founders for
using
that
that
stuff.
ego. Yeah, they
Mm-hmm.
were they were the ones who kind of the pioneers there. They brought it in, and then Debo was like, you know what, I'm about to make it
To another
a
level.
lot better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I wanted Kadarius Toney used. Put him in the backfield. He's the type where people talk about Debo as someone who, he's got an average depth of target of 10 plus yards downfield, but he's also one of the most dynamic players with the ball in his hands. And that's Kadarius Toney. Like Kadarius Toney off rip is someone who we've seen once he gets the ball in space, there are very few people who can make that play and stop him. So I love the pick. And people keep comping guys like Treylon Burks this year to Debo Samuel and use him in that role. Treylon Burks and Debo Samuel are two completely different players, two completely different types. You can use him in that similar role, sure, but Kadarius Toney is the guy that should be being used in the way that Debo is used. And as for the whole him not showing up to voluntary camp, I don't care. That's just me. Like I'm like, look, if you're somewhere training, I don't care if you're training with the team. If you're training or if you're rehabbing, we know Kadarius Toney dating back to his college days has been someone who the injury bug has consistently bit him. If he's rehabbing or if he's training, as long as you're doing something to improve yourself as a football player,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have an issue with you not showing up to these voluntary practices before the draft even happens. That's just not a big deal to me.
Right. Absolutely. I completely agree
Yeah,
100% on
yeah.
that.
We've been on the same boat the whole time. I get people's trepidations about it, and if it's mandatory and he's not there, then that's the issue. But until then, hey, Allen Iverson said it: practice.
It's just practice, yeah. No, and it's not even exactly, and it's not even voluntary practice. I mean, it's not even like mandatory practice. It's voluntary.
Yeah.
Joe Shane had a perfect line on that, which actually Manny retweeted, and that's pretty. And that's all that matters in terms of that, man. Um,
So, Brandon, let me ask real quick, if you don't mind. We're talking about Kadarius Toney, former Gator, now a Giant. You guys just got two new coaches on the team from the Giants, and Rob Sale, the O line coach, and Sean Spencer, the D line coach. How those guys have been as Rob Sale's taken over the offense, and if I'm not mistaken, Spencer, he's a co-D coordinator.
Yeah. Sean Spencer's the co-defensive coordinator, and the defensive line coach, but he is not the defensive play caller. That is Patrick Toney, who is the safeties coach in Gainesville. He was also with new head coach Billy Napier in Louisiana. But Sean Spencer has been Coach Chaos. That's all they're calling him. That's what he is. He's working on the defensive line. He's getting them made because you look at the defensive line, and Florida's got some good players. You've got Javon Dexter, who's one of the best interior pass rushers in college football. You've got Brenton Cox Jr., who when he's actually trying to play football, he could be a dominant player. You look at that Florida State game, and that was Brenton Cox just in a nutshell. He took off plays completely. He outran himself out of plays and then stopped even trying. And then he also demolished the entire backfield in a single play. He's just that player where if he's trying, he's a monster. And along the rest of the defensive line, they've just got athletes. You've got Princely Umanmielen is someone who is pretty raw. We're gonna see him step up. He's 6'3", 237 pounds. He cut down from 260 at the end of camp, so he's just been completely remodeling his body. Desmond Watson he's so heavy that the scale can't even count him. The scale in Gainesville goes up to 440 pounds, and he's been hitting that number since he got to Gainesville last year.
Jesus.
He's
That's a
about
big man.
460. Yeah,
Wow.
he's a tank. But he snacks Harrison. He's not going to make plays in the passing game, really. He's going to eat up his blocks and he's going to try to push the pocket. But Sean Spencer has all these athletes and all these players who can be good football players, but they've got to get coached up. Coaching last year, specifically on the defensive side of the ball, was terrible. That's not acceptable anymore. Sean Spencer is coming over. I know people love him. I know that in Gainesville, the players love him because, the Giants loved him. He was a fantastic.
Loved him as a coach.
Exactly. Everybody loved Sean Spencer, and he just didn't stay in Jersey for whatever reason. I'm not gonna get into it, but he's in Gainesville now, and the defensive line is thriving under him. And then Rob Sales, the offensive coordinator, but not the offensive play caller, similar to Sean Spencer. Billy Napier is going to be calling the plays for the offense in Gainesville, but Rob Sale was the offensive coordinator with Billy Napier before coming to the Giants. He was the offensive coordinator for Louisiana with Billy Napier, and they put out offensive linemen into the NFL pretty much every year. I mean, you've got Max Mitchell is a product of Rob Sale. He's Louisiana offensive tackle in the draft this year. 1 year without Rob Sale in Louisiana, but I mean, most of his college career was with Rob Sale. You've got Robert Hunt with the Miami Dolphins from a couple years ago. He was in the draft. He's one of their better offensive linemen. He's a Rob Sale product. Like he was recruited and coached by Rob Sale. So Rob Sale is someone who we're very excited to have in Gainesville, especially when the offensive line has been
Questionable.
horrible for the past 4 years. Yeah, I
Well,
guess that's the way we can put it. They've just been terrible. But Rob Sale has brighter days upon us. I mean, the spring game happened last Thursday, and it was just phenomenal from the offensive line compared to last year, which was according to PFF, the fourth worst run blocking offensive line in college football amongst 138 teams.
Jesus.
But their runners had the best rushing grade. So it just goes to show their rushers were phenomenal, but the offensive line was just atrocious. But Rob Sale is here to turn that around.
Aren't they? Aren't they? Don't they have? Give me some of the players that are like that you're kind of like excited for that are heading to the draft out of Florida.
I mean, we've got Damian Pierce is a running back who has just been constantly disrespected. Every time I do a podcast, whether it's someone coming on my show or me going on someone else's show, and they want to talk about Damian Pierce, they always, why didn't Damian Pierce get more carries? He didn't have more than 8 carries in a game this season until the bowl game when Dan Mullen was gone. And the answer for why didn't Damian Pierce get more carries is because Dan Mullen was not good at his job this year. It's as simple as that. You've got Damian Pierce, who's someone who you watch him run on Saturdays, and every time you see him carry the ball, you're like, that's a grown man. Like he's going to be playing on Sunday. So Damian Pierce is one of those rushers who ton of power, best pass protecting back in the draft. I don't care who you argue with the wall. I don't care. Damian Pierce is that guy. Not a ton of top end speed, but he's still a phenomenal runner. He's someone who, like I said, you watched him play on Saturdays and you're like, okay, he's gonna play on Sundays. You watch him against Florida State, his helmet got ripped off and he still ran in the touchdown while colliding with multiple defenders. He got penalized for keeping the play going after his helmet came off, but it was just one of those plays where that was Damian Pierce just in a nutshell there. It was just he does not care. He's gonna be full go every time. And I want him to wind up in New York, New Jersey, whatever. I don't care.
Right.
But I want him to wind up for the Giants because he is the media's dream. Like everybody in Gainesville loves Damian Pierce. He's a phenomenal character. He's a great dude. I got to talk to him at Mobile in the Senior Bowl, and I mean he's just a beam of light with the media.
Where would you think that he would go, or where would you think the Giant? Where would you want the Giants to pick him up at? What round would you want to pick it up?
I think anywhere after pick 90 is where we're going to see Damian Pierce go. I think 90, 91 is where is where teams are talking about, the Bucks are going to look at him. Every team in that range is going to look at him because he's someone who can just step in and play. He's probably never going to be a superstar, but he's someone where you
Yeah.
can watch him go. The Giants, I know, pick a little after that, if I'm not mistaken. Their early fourth round would be, I guess, the range the Giants would have to take him. But even then, that would be 111-ish, if I'm not mistaken. So that's even
114, I think.
114. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
if you can get him at 114, I'm cool with it. I think he's just an NFL running back who is
Yeah.
going to be productive. Like, I don't have a doubt about that.
So there's one guy.
Go ahead, Manny.
No, yeah, boss. So there's one guy that I follow, Football Grump, and his show with Cranky Fan. They were talking about Damon Pierce, and he went to go to the Senior Bowl to go watch, the players and the prospects out there. Damian Pierce was there, and the one thing they noticed is that he's elite in pass protection, which is something that like Saquon Barkley, that's kind of like his Achilles heel or anything. Just like the knock on him is that he's not a great pass protector. It like with Damon Pierce, is it also like is from your standpoint? I always feel like if a running back doesn't have much tread on the wheel, so to speak, they haven't played a lot in college. That might be a good thing because then they come in the NFL fresh.
Great thing.
Like,
Right.
what's your take on that? Was it more of just because did he not just play enough last year and the year before? Like, was he kind of like running like behind the running back committee, and then this year just wasn't given those reps, or was it something else?
It was always a committee. You look at the 2020 season for the Florida Gators, and it was a very pass-heavy offense. You had Kyle Trask, Kadarius Toney, Kyle Pitts, Trayvon Grimes were there. You had a lot of pass catchers, and of course, a second-round quarterback there, who was a Heisman candidate. So it made sense to throw the ball a lot. Even multiple tight ends there. Keon Zipper, who probably is going to be the starter for the Gators this year. Kamori Gamble, who is going to be the starter for UCF this year. He just transferred out of as a grad transfer. And so there was a lot of talent there, but the running backs just didn't get used enough. And Damian Pierce was someone who he played a solid amount in that 2020 season because he was so good at pass protection. That was a big thing where you've got a bad offensive line. You've got a quarterback in Kyle Trask, who I love, but the dude is as immobile as it gets when you're talking about an NFL quarterback. So he's about as immobile as it gets. So you got to have someone like Damian Pierce there who can protect your passer. And I talked about this when we were in Mobile. We were doing a live stream for Locked On after every day of practice. And Tony Wiggins, who is the host of Locked On Jaguars, amazing dude. He's one of the funniest people you'll ever speak to. But he was saying that one of the quickest ways off the field as a young running back is by being given pass protecting duties and completely fumbling that opportunity. And Damian Pierce is not that dude. Like that is what's going to get him on the field. You talk about him with the Giants, and that's perfect because you got Saquon Barkley, who couldn't block me if he tried to. It's just very, very awful as a pass.
He shouldn't be kept in the backfield. He should be going
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the kind of the double-edged sword, I guess, there, because you got Saquon, you want him on the field as a receiver, but you can't put him as a pass protector, and it's like, well, if they know that he's on the field, it's either a run or a pass where he's a possible target, that kind of ruins it. So I mean, you could just blitz, and then you got numbers in the backfield quickly. But then you have Damian Pierce, who he can protect your quarterback, specifically in this unfortunate scenario. It's Daniel Jones, who, I mean, he fumbles more than anything. Like you watched what was it, the Replacements, where he puts the glue on his hands. Daniel Jones is the opposite. And Daniel Jones is the opposite of that. He can't hold on to anything. It's like he's trying to catch a sea bass with his bare hands when the football is coming in. So Damian Pierce is someone, though, that can protect you and kind of help minimize those mistakes.
I gotcha. Anybody, Manny, do you have anybody from Florida that you keep an eye on?
Yeah. I'm sure we're right to him. The top, probably the one guy of the group, because there's another guy after this. So there's three guys altogether from Florida that I really think could be good players for the Giants to pick up, or any team that's looking for these guys in these positions. But he's going to probably be a first rounder. I don't know if I pronounce his name correctly. Khair Elam.
Kyer Elam.
Kyer Elam. Yeah, Kyer Elam, cornerback, 6'2", 196 from Riviera Beach. Pretty much from what I haven't watched a lot. I haven't watched his tape at all, to be honest. The only cornerback I've watched really is like Sauce, Kobe, and a little bit of Stingley. Honestly, I've always had an issue with watching tape of guys I really don't think we have a shot or that we could get at like the top of the second. But when you look at him, a lot of people what they say is that he has the traits of a first rounder. He's athletically there. He has the length. He has what you want in a cornerback. He can play press man, but that he's not. He didn't have the best season in 2021. What is that attributed to? And what do you think about as far as like what would you say is a good spot to draft him?
And Brandon, before you answer that, just give me kind of like a little tier of where you have your corners this year. So
I have him as corner 3. I have
Ooh,
Sauce at 1, Stingley at 2, and Elam at 3.
wow.
And then McDuffie and Booth right in that order, right in that top 5. Um,
So this
but
guy is gonna go in the first round.
he should. He should. I
Mm.
mean, 2021, he was marred by injuries a little bit. He had a knee injury that kept him out for 3 games, and even when he was playing, it clearly was hampering him a little bit. And also, full disclosure, like we've said this before, and I've talked about it on Locked On Gators. Kyer Elam certain times seemed a little disinterested. Like he seemed like he didn't really want to be there, which is shocking. Florida Gators don't want to be there. But he seemed like he didn't really want to be there. But I mean, when you're looking at corners, that's the same complaint people had about Derek Stingley Jr. They were like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, like it's so easy for him sometimes. He's not trying that much. I don't know if that's the reason Kyrie Elam wasn't trying. But Derek Stingley, it seems like it's just like so natural to him. He was a freshman that was one of the best corners in all of college football, and Kyrie Elam not as talented there, but 6'1" and a half, 6'2", 4'3", 940 if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Insanely fast. He's exactly insanely fast. He's one of the more fluid corners in the class, regardless of size. So being 6'1" and a half, 6'2", that's just phenomenal for me. And Manny, you mentioned everybody says he could play press man. I see 2 things when I see Kyrie Elam's name in any evaluation. I see that scheme fit section that people use. People put press man or press zone. And it's like, you know what that means? Just play him in press. I don't care what defense it is. Press man, press zone. You look at the
Just
Florida
press.
Gators. Yeah, you look at the Florida Gators last year, the year before that. You know what they do a lot of? Cover 1 and cover 3. He's got
Perfect.
experience playing man. He's got experience playing zone. They run quarters. They run cover 2, and he's always been the guy. Florida got a little messed up when he injured his knee. Things got pretty bad for the pass defense, but Kyrie Elam just on his side has always been on an island. You look at that Alabama game, you could look at the PFF numbers and they go, he gave up a touchdown. If you look at the play, he collided with an Alabama receiver and he was the only defender in the area. So he kind of got taken out of the play. But the Alabama game is one of the best games from him. He even caught a phantom defensive pass interference call, which, if I'm not mistaken, he was like 3 yards from the receiver. But
Wow.
it was but it's one of those plays where I'm not saying he's not without flaws. He is. Don't expect him to make a tackle and run defense to save his life. That's not what he's gonna do.
I don't
And
like I don't like to be honest, I don't like Sauce Gardner's tackling skills neither though. But that's not what we get corners for neither, yo.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's my point where it's like if you're the type where you go, my corner needs to make tackles, like I could see Detroit doing that. Like Detroit's that type where they're gritty, they're gonna grind it out. I could see them going, our corners need to make tackles. Guess what? That was the issue when Greedy Williams was coming out and people were mocking Greedy to Detroit was Detroit likes corners who can make tackles. Greedy Williams can do that. And Greedy Williams is I think a fair comp for Kyrie Elam in some ways. I think
Mm-hmm.
athletically they're very identical. Kyrie Elam's got a little bit of a longer wingspan, although Greedy Williams has somewhat longer arms, so Kyrie's got a pretty wide torso up there. But I think stylistically they're pretty similar. They're press corners who a lot of people prefer they play press man, which is fine. I don't care if you could do both. That's great. And they're not going to make tackles against the run, and they seem like they're a little disinterested at times. It's a fair comp, I think. It's not really one that I roll with usually. I try to go with Xavier Rhodes more because I think that press is just that much
Okay.
better for Kyer than it was for Greedy.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Kyer to me is a very talented corner prospect. I think when you're looking at the 15 range is where we really might see him go. I think if you can go, I hate saying it, but the Eagles, if
Eagles
you have
guy.
the Eagles and you go, opposite Darius Slay, how cool would it be to have another very physical press man corner, or at least someone who, if he's not playing this year, could play behind Darius Slay and learn behind him, then you're
Yeah.
really looking. I think if the Gators want him, I don't think he's going to be there at 36. He's someone who he knows how to go through this process. His cousin
Corner's
was
too
a
valuable also to be dropping that
yeah,
much. Yeah.
exactly. And his cousin was a first round pick for the Baltimore Ravens in 2011. Matt Elam, a safety. His dad is
Oh,
Abram. His
oh,
dad is Abram Elam, who played for the Chiefs and Cowboys.
Look
So
at
he
that.
he's got
So
this NFL pedigree in
he
his
has the
family.
pedigree, and the pedigree itself
Yeah,
will get you, picked high.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
He knows how to get through this process and probably ace it.
Definitely, definitely. One more guy that we have is Zach Carter. I've seen on Manny's list here. Tell me a little bit about that guy.
Zachary Carter is powerful dude. Like that is the best way to put him. He's just got a ton of punch. One of the better bull rushers in the class. I will say that's his only effective move. Like when you talk about the effectiveness of your moves, that's only bull rush is the only one that Zach really has effectively. He does try to work in a swim, a rip, a spin. He tries to work in other things. The pass rush plan is there, but the execution has not really been there. But he's someone who I think one promising thing about him is that he's improved year over year. As he's picked up a bigger role, he's not only gotten more productive, which is obviously going to happen with more snaps, but he's got more efficient. I'll say he's been more productive on a per snap basis than anything else. He's someone who's an incredibly versatile player. You put him at the three tech and out, and he can play any of those spots. I wouldn't put him at the nose. He's a bit small for that, bit light for that. But I think he played at 280 for Florida this past year. But if you put him at three tech or anywhere further out than that, I think that you got a successful player. And one thing that I really like about him is that he can play those multiple roles and you don't really get a drop off in talent. It's not like he's one of those guys who Gregory Rousseau will say from
oh.
last year's draft class, he was with the Miami Hurricanes and then he got drafted by the Buffalo Bills. He's someone who people kept listing him as an edge, but he was in college only really effective as an interior pass rusher.
Mm-hmm.
Zachary Carter is someone who, whether he's rushing from three tech, five tech, nine, whatever it is, he's been similarly productive at all those spots. I think he's a sound run defender. I think he's a powerful pass rusher. He's not going to do much else. He doesn't have a ton of bend, not a ton of wiggle, but he's someone who you can at least get productive snaps out of.
Can he play standing up?
He shouldn't. He shouldn't.
Okay, so he should just be strictly like 4-3 DE or 3-4 DE. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you see him kind of like in a similar role like that Leonard Williams is in, minus the interior, like the D tackle straight in the middle position.
Correct. Yeah. I could see him playing a very similar role there, but yeah, not that zero tech or the one tech.
You see him being able to, he can rush again. He'll be able to rush against like tackles. Like he'll be able, like you can see him.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, because he's the power rusher.
Yeah. I could see him getting it.
That's entice. I mean, shoot. You see another thing too is that he kept like sacks wise. I mean, getting 8 sacks as a D lineman.
That's no joke.
I mean, yeah, that's impressive. And I mean, he doesn't look like he doesn't look like a defensive tackle. He looks like a
That's
DN.
what I'm saying. He doesn't even look like he
He is
looks.
like
He's gonna have to put on some weight. You think, right? For Len, because
he's probably gonna have to put on a little weight. The thing with him right now is like
for 3-4 DE.
he's rocked up. He is
Yeah.
chiseled from stone. He was in Mobile too, and I went up to him just to introduce myself. And I shook his hand, and like at one point I like had my arm near him, and I was like, "Damn!" Like I was like, "He is brigged over here." So I was like, "Yeah, he's a pure muscle dude. He could add some weight, I think, and it won't be too impact or it won't hurt him at all athletically because he's not someone who gets by with speed or agility right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's someone who's all power. So I don't think adding weight is going to be an issue for him, specifically in his waist. I feel like he's a little thin there. But he's someone who, if he adds some weight, he can be more of a D tackle role.
All right. Speaking of interior guys or something similar to that, I'm gonna slowly transition this to to Trayvon Walker, man. I need to get your opinion on what you think about Trayvon Walker. Does he should he belong in the top 5 of the draft in those draft talks?
No.
He
Ah!
I'm hoping he goes top 4 because I don't want the Giants to make that. I don't want the Giants to do that. But I'm hoping he goes top 4 because yeah, he's just not someone that I want. He's not someone that was really. I don't want to be the guy that's like, oh, you're not productive enough. But I think that I would have liked to see more from him, and I don't care about the defense around him because I know that there are people that go, he had so many good players around him. He should have been more productive. The counterpoint to that is he had so many good players around him that were also productive, that were just more productive. So I don't think that that's. I don't like that argument of going he should have been more productive, but I do wish we saw more of those flashes get put together more consistently on tape.
Gotcha.
And that's the thing. That's why I was really excited. That's why I was really excited that we were able to get you on the show because covering Florida, you don't just watch Florida. You're covering the SEC, which is, I mean, that's college football. You pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're watching Alabama. You're watching Georgia. You're watching Auburn. You even get a shot to probably get to watch FSU. You know, which has players like another guy that I want to mention, Jermaine Johnson, the edge out of there. I'm a higher on Jermaine Johnson than like Trayvon Walker to me. Like I would give me the choice. I'd rather take Jermaine Johnson. What do you see in him?
I see the third best pass rusher in their class behind Aiden Hutchinson and Kayvon Thibodeau. I think Jermaine
Okay.
Johnson is an elite talent. I think he is just like if we see him at 5 or if we see him at 7, I'm cool with it. I have no issue with that. Like because when you talk about building a team, when you talk about building a franchise, you need premier players at what 5 positions? You need them at QB, corner, edge, offensive tackle, and wide receiver. But even the wide receiver one's kind of getting phased out a little bit with how strong every wide receiver class is.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that Jermaine Johnson could be that edge rusher. I think he could be that guy. I know people have the qualm with him of he's gone to so many schools, he hasn't been productive enough. I don't care. You look at the tape and you look at the production for him specifically, and I don't know every scheme inside and out, but I do know that Florida State, your primary responsibility at Florida State as an edge rusher is run defense, and then you got to worry about the pass rush. It's contain and then rush. So Jermaine Johnson, I don't care that he wasn't ridiculously productive. That means nothing to me because I know his primary responsibility was to contain and then rush. You talk about college being, or the SEC and then just the Southern schools in general, really, because Clemson's not an SEC school, but they're usually an elite program, and just those schools down south. And you go, they are NFLU in the sense that they get the NFL, they get the guys to the NFL. And you got every quarterback down there is just becoming increasingly athletic. And that's why it's contain and then rush.
Yeah.
Jermaine Johnson is someone who he put enough on tape for me as far as pass rush moves go and wins there that I'm like, I could see him going, whether it's 4-3 D end you want him to rush at, whether it's a 3-4 outside linebacker. I don't care your defense. Get Jermaine Johnson there, the size, athleticism. He's a smart guy, I think, at least. Like I got to speak to him in Mobile a little bit. I think he's a pretty smart guy. I think he's an instant day one plug and play player that could be your edge one for a decade.
That's good, man. Because now my stock went a little bit up on Jermaine because I wasn't too high on Jermaine either, but Manny was. Manny's been a fan of, but I haven't. I just didn't think that he didn't show enough power for me sometimes. I just felt like I saw some plays where I was like a tight end was blocking him down, and I was like, what? Like you can't get blocked by tight ends, man. Like you're a defensive end. But if you're saying it, Brandon, I'm definitely gonna put him up a little bit on my list now. I was, and I'll be honest, I am a Trayvon Walker fan just because of, yes, he didn't show enough production, no doubt about it. But when I see in the tape, I see him like just overpowering sometimes double blocks. When he's lined up in tackles, I see him just completely drive tackles back, and I'm just like, man, holy crap! Like this guy could really be, if used correctly in the NFL, he probably could develop into something. But I also understand the point of, yeah, hey, listen, you still need to see production, and sometimes he himself, like Trayvon Walker, sometimes had the ability to make the play. And for whatever reason, he wasn't able to make the play. That he just didn't turn the corner fast enough, or just slip his hands. So it's true. I do appreciate that a whole ton. One thing that I do want to get from you is the Giants are obviously the number one thing, according to the world, is that the Giants, and it's true, the Giants need an offensive tackle out of here. At 5, if all three offensive tackles on right now, Neal, Iquanu, um, Cross,
Cross.
are there, who would you take at 5?
Evan Neal.
Neal.
Evan Neal's the guy for me. I think he's the most. There's a few reasons with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's the most NFL ready guy right now. I think
Mm-hmm.
Ike Ekwonu has a great ceiling. I think Charles Cross has an insane ceiling as well.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that really bothers me here is,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of how you feel about Andrew Thomas, when he was coming out of the draft, I hated him. But regardless how you feel about him now,
Mm-hmm.
you need a right tackle because
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Thomas has proven he's your left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
You look at Charles Cross and in his 3 years of college,
Mm-hmm.
he's played right tackle 4 snaps. You look at Ike Ekwonu, he's played right tackle 1 snap.
Mm-hmm.
You look at Evan Neal, he started at right tackle for a year. He's got experience there. If I got the choice of 3 tackles, and I feel like they're all pretty similar in terms of talent. I think Evan Neal is the most well-rounded, but I think Ike Ekwonu and I think Charles Cross are not super far apart.
Okay.
But if I could take the one that I think is more pro ready, if I could take the one that I know can play right tackle,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be what I do. I also think that Ike Ekwonu and Charles Cross are better suited for more zone-based offenses. Not that I think they can't play in more gap blocking, but Buffalo last year under Brian Dable did run a lot of gap blocking. That could have been because that's just what their offensive line were. They were kind of bigger dudes that they had over there, so maybe that was just a better fit there. But I'm taking Evan Neal, the guy that I know is a versatile player, the guy I know can pass protect, I know can run block, and I know can play right tackle. It's just I don't want to be the guy that's like, oh, it's a safer pick, but it's the smarter pick. I think. I think it's a more efficient choice.
Nah,
We're not used.
that makes sense.
We're not used to smart picks. We're not used to that.
At
Um,
all. At
That's
all.
why it won't be any of them. It won't be any of them. We're gonna see Goodell go on the podium and go, let's see, who are they taking? Tyler Linderbaum, but only to play tackle.
Oh
And
my
they're gonna do
God.
something like that.
That was if Gettleman was here. If Gettleman was here, that definitely would have been the wave right there. Gettleman would have drafted the center, bro. Absolutely.
Jordan, she would have drafted Jordan Davis 5th overall.
That's true too. That's true too. What are
Really
your
quick.
what would you an ideal? First of all, give me an ideal scenario for the Giants at 5-7, and then give me what you think it's gonna happen at 5-7.
Well, I mean, when I'm looking at this class, I go, it needs to be a QB, an offensive tackle, an edge, or a corner. And when I say it needs to be a QB, I mean, if you want a QB, it needs to be Malik Willis. If it's anybody else, don't do it. Because at 5 or 7, I think it's Malik Willis or nobody else. It's Malik Willis or you're not going QB. I don't think they will go QB.
Mm-mm.
But if I'm taking a QB, it's going to be Malik Willis. I think he's the only one with franchise quarterback potential that is worth that pick. Not saying that he'll get it. It's going to be a long road for him. But
Right.
guess what? It was for Josh Allen, and now we've got the guy that helped develop him to be the quarterback that he is, the the NFL MVP candidate. But I look at this class and I go at 5-7. There's not a linebacker I take. There's not a D tackle I take. There's not an interior offensive lineman. There's not a safety, running back, tight end, or receiver I take in this class that early.
That makes it easy.
Yeah, the receiver thing is simply because I am firmly entrenched in, unless it's an elite can't miss prospect, I'm not taking a receiver in the top 15, 20 picks, probably not the first round because it's just so deep every year. So I'm going, okay, we got a QB, Malik Willis, an option. If he's there, I don't know if he will be. I kind of don't think he will be. The NFL, whether you think he should be, the NFL constantly overdrafts quarterbacks. So there's that. And I think when you watch was it the AFC Championship or the AFC Divisional round where it was the Bills versus the Chiefs?
The divisional.
Yeah, it was Pat Mahomes and it was Josh Allen just gunslinging the entire time.
And if you didn't have one of those, if your quarterback didn't look like that, then you don't have a quarterback. Yeah, that's what it was.
And the only QB in this class that can do that is Malik Willis. I love Matt Corral, but he can't do what Malik Willis, Pat Mahomes, and Josh Allen can do. So Malik Willis is the only guy. You look at tackle, if you have your option of all three, you go Evan Neal in my mind. You have edge, I'm cool with Kayvon or Jermaine Johnson. I think that they're both 5-7 guys. I think I'm fine with that. I don't think Aiden Hutchinson is there, which is why I'm not including him. Because even if he doesn't go 1, I think he's going to be gone in the top 3 or 4. And I'm not in on Trayvon Walker. It's as simple as that. I just don't think he's worth that 5-7 pick also. You look at corner, it's Sauce Gardner. That's it. And at 5 to 7, it is Sauce Gardner. I think the Giants end up going with a tackle and an edge rusher. I don't think that they're going to go Sauce. I don't think that you go Kyer that early. I said 15 and behind, you go him. And I don't think you go Derek Stingley. Derek Stingley is a phenomenal corner prospect, but I'm not taking a corner who the past 2 years has had foot and ankle injuries holding him back. I'm just not doing it. It's as simple as that. If you play
Not that
corner,
high.
yeah, if you play corner, you need those knee down needs to be in good shape. I'm not taking a guy with a Liz Frank injury and a sprained ankle that kept him out for the majority of a season. No, that's not someone I'm going to touch at 5 to 7. That's not someone I'm touching till 15. And at that point, it's Kyer or Derek Stingley. It's something like that. So I think that we see the Giants go tackle and edge, which I'm totally fine with. I think that's a smart move. I think that's the best move that you can make. If it's Evan Neal and Kayvon, or literally any combination of Evan Neal, Ike Ekwonu, Kayvon Thibodeau, or Jermaine Johnson, I'm cool with. Charles Cross, I wouldn't totally hate, but
Right.
he is my third tackle on that list. And I
Okay.
think if you look at this and you go, Aiden Hutchinson's going to be gone, Trayvon Walker's probably going to be gone. That means at 5, you're getting one of Evan Neal, Charles Cross, or Ike Ekwonu. And if we assume Malik Willis is gone also, that means that you're getting at least one of Evan Neal or Ike Ekwonu. So I think you take one of those, you can go with, and then there's one pick between your next pick. So even if an edge goes, you take either Kayvon or Jermaine Johnson, whichever one's still remaining. So I think
If that's the case right there, let me ask you a question. If that's the case right there, wouldn't you want to take the edge that, for example, if you have a big grade difference between Kayvon and Jermaine, would you take Jermaine? I mean, would you take Kayvon first, then settle with whatever tackle is there at 6 or 7, or for you, tackle is a bigger priority than edge for the Giants?
I think tackle is a bigger priority, but I also have a bigger gap between my tackle 2 and tackle 3 than I do with Kayvon and Jermaine Johnson. I'm
Okay.
very close with Kayvon and Jermaine Johnson. I think that they're both very talented players, and I love them both. And then I think you look at tackle, and I got Evan Neal, I got Ike Ekwonu, and then there's a little bit of gap, and then there's Charles Cross. Charles Cross is a
John, you see my roots? He's gonna shoot this bird.
Oh no, did I mess it up?
Yeah.
you take
Oh, there you go.
Then you reset.
pro-
13,000.
problem. You know he could pass protect better than pretty much anyone in the class. So at least you've got that, which is your biggest issue right now, is that Daniel Jones can't be breathed on without fumbling the ball. So you've got to protect that.
So I got that's awesome, and then that I agree with all like pretty much what you said. Any combination, I'm even cool with cross if it's like that's how it has to fall.
Yeah.
I'm cool with all that. What is with the Daniel Jones slander? If I can just ask real quick, we're not a fan.
No, not at all.
No, so you. So, what? Obviously, you think the turnovers are an issue, but what else about Daniel Jones are you? Because I'm of the mindset of like I'm a fan of the Giants. If the Giants do good, they could have freaking have Tyrod Taylor be the quarterback, Jake Fromm, who I don't care. Who if as long as they're winning and they're playing good ball, that's all that matters. But I am if I would choose a side, I support Daniel Jones. I think he can be good. I don't think he was given any favors with the offensive line construction, the team construction as a whole, players in and out, including himself, a head coach that didn't have an offensive mind, that didn't have a real 2022 football mind. I just did an OC that is now a USFL analyst, which tells you how he couldn't even get a job at PFF. But I think Daniel Jones has this is it. If he doesn't show it this year, then yeah, send his ass back to Durham. But I'm interested in what specifically makes you think he's not going to show it this year.
I mean, it's not that I don't think he's going to show that to me, but it is that I don't think he's a franchise quarterback.
Okay.
I just don't think he's got the tools to be a franchise quarterback. I was saying that when he's coming out of college. He does not have the tools to become a franchise quarterback. Mainly, he doesn't have the arm, and the pocket presence was way I want to say that
It's
people thought that he
non-existent.
was better in the pocket. Yeah, people thought he was better in the pocket than he really was, and I don't think I've ever seen a player get more leeway than Daniel Jones when he was coming out of college because his receivers sucked. I don't care if your receivers suck. That means nothing to me. Because if you go, oh, his receivers sucked, then you're looking at his numbers and you care about that. I don't care about his numbers. It's the same argument when a quarterback is getting a big contract and they go when they're up for a big contract potentially, and you go, yeah, but look at his stats. He had no one around him. I don't care if you had no one around him. I care about the film. And if you're not good on film, and I don't see the tools to become a franchise quarterback on film, I don't think you should be drafted. What was it, 6th overall? And also, I don't know if this is like a widely known thing, but to my knowledge, he was asked at the combine to work out with the tight ends for a little bit.
I remember that story.
Okay,
Yeah.
I don't
did
want
not
my
know that.
I don't want my franchise quarterback to be someone that got asked to change positions at the NFL Combine, unless it's
Holy
Lamar.
smokes.
Unless it's Lamar Jackson, I don't want that. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm at. And again, like if he and also yeah, like if he's with the Giants and he finds success, awesome.
Right.
I don't care. You mentioned if they're playing well and they're winning and they're doing this, then I don't care. But guess what? He's not playing well. They're not winning. He's not the problem, but he's
Yeah.
part of it. I think that a lot of other quarterbacks probably could have elevated their team a little more than Daniel Jones did. And like I said, I don't think he's the worst,
Yeah.
but I think he's an average quarterback. And if you look at someone like Malik Willis and you go, he can be the guy, I think you take that swing because Malik Willis is going to need a year anyway. He's going to need at least a year anyway. So if you can go, guess what? We're going to take Malik Willis now. And if Daniel Jones works out, fantastic. If he doesn't, we've already got our guy.
And just to reiterate what you said, it's just at the end of the day, we just spoke about it. How do you have what was in that AFC divisional playoff game? Do you have a quarterback that looks like Mahomes or Allen? And if you don't, then you should be looking for a quarterback because that's it. Like that's the elite of the elite. That's the example, and we don't have that in Jones. And listen, I'll say this, and Manny knows, I've been saying this the whole time. He will look a lot better, and just because he's gonna have finally a 2022 offense, he will have Jason Garrett calling the plays. But is looking better good enough to still warrant him getting a contract? That's the question. And that's honestly, I don't know, man. I don't feel good about Jones at all, any kind of shape or way or form for him still being in the Giants after this season, to be honest.
Yeah, we've all said it for the most part too. Either if he balls out, has a great, like for me, balling out needs to be like playoffs, win a game in the playoffs, at least play good in the playoffs, something along those lines. Have a good number, have a low digit, have a single digit interception rate or single digit, turnover rate. Or, hey, if you have turnovers, comparing them, whatever, okay, 10,
give
12.
Him like 12, tell him like 12 to 15 total, but if any of he has like about 35 plus touchdowns, I'll take that. Hell yeah.
He just needs the ball. He just needs to play well.
That's crazy,
and even then,
man.
Yeah, and even then, I'm giving him the franchise tag. Yeah. Like, I'm a supporter of Daniel Jones, and I'm saying if he balls out,
if he
franchise
has
tag.
A historic year.
Yeah, and everyone's like, and I heard one person saying you don't want to franchise tag him because there's cap issues, and that's $8 million against the cap. Well, next year the Giants are going to have like third most in cap space. Right. So yeah, $8 million, bet. To sign, I will pay an extra $8 million to see Daniel Jones prove us wrong again or prove us right.
Right. No,
definitely. Yeah, it's that peace of mind because I think when you look at Daniel Jones' ceiling, it's above average at best. I think if you have someone who your ceiling is above average at best,
not top 10,
and you're already a very turnover-prone guy, and another issue with Daniel Jones that I have at least is something that Ross Jackson from Locked On Saints talks about all the time, where he goes, you've got a guy who is set in his ways with how he plays. He's played for years now the same way. He's got those tendencies. It's going to be very hard to break them. He talked about that a lot with Jameis Winston. And Jameis Winston improved significantly, obviously, in the short time that he got to play. Yes. But the issue with Jameis Winston was before he went to the Saints, he had that 30-30 season with 30 touchdowns, 30 picks.
Right.
And it's very hard to break those tendencies when you've been playing for so many years. And Daniel Jones was a 3 or 4 year starter in college. He's been starting in the NFL for a few years now. He's pretty set in his ways, and I think that it's just not worth the trade-off at this point to go, we're gonna handcuff ourselves to Daniel Jones. If you like Malik Willis and if he's there and if you believe that he can be your franchise guy, then I think you gotta pull the trigger on
Yo,
it.
he doesn't. And Daniel Jones just doesn't have that backyard football in him, man. Like that ability to create above the X's and O's, he doesn't have that at all. And as a matter of fact, like the guy is more stuck in the pocket than Eli Manning himself. Like he just has no pocket presence at all. That's the point where I was not the turnovers. I think he can fix the turnover stuff. As a matter of fact, I don't care if doesn't he hold on to the ball enough for me? Maybe. But I'll give him a pass every time. If you're getting blindside hit and you're fumbling, I don't care, man. I'm blaming that on the tackle. I'm blaming that on the tackle, running back, whoever has to block his blindside. Yes, should quarterbacks still keep the ball when they're getting blindside sacked? Maybe, but I also understand, like, dude, it's a grown ass man who probably is 100 pounds bigger than you, hitting you from behind. So I'll give him the pass on those. What I'm not gonna give him the pass is like, yo, dude, like, you gotta get out that pocket. And when you get out the pocket, stop rolling out to your right only. Like, there's a whole world that exists. He's only rolling to his right, or he's only backpedaling and throwing off his back foot. So it's just like, yo, there's just no creativity in this kid's mind. Maybe he's thinking about way too many things. I don't see how he just becomes like a top 10 quarterback. I don't see it. I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's possible, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm a supporter. I agree with that as well.
Hey, if he does, absolutely, amen, man. I would love to see it. I would love for him to prove me wrong, but I just don't see him doing that. Again, I think he's gonna look better, but at the end of the day, what I think that won't change, no matter what scheme is there, is the pocket presence. He doesn't have it. It doesn't exist for him.
One thing that probably worries me the most with him, and maybe it's because I'm spoiled because we've only had Eli Manning as a quarterback before Daniel Jones, but he doesn't stay on the field. He doesn't stay healthy. That probably worries me more than everything else that you guys have mentioned.
You know what's funny? It doesn't worry me though, because to me, like, we got spoiled because of Eli Manning and the Iron Man that he is. But realistically speaking, football players will get hurt. Like, if your quarterback misses 2 games in a year, bro, it is what it is. I'll still think that's a successful year if your quarterback only misses 2 games in a year or something like that. I would even say borderline 3, to be honest. Like, it's really rare to see quarterbacks go 16, 17 games though without missing a game, son. Like, that's crazy.
See, we could talk about durability and we could talk about pocket presence and we could talk about fumbling. And like a lot of that does come into just his pocket presence. You mentioned if he's getting blindsided all the time, I'm going to blame his tackle. I'm going to blame his running back, his tight end, whoever's supposed to be protecting him. But that also falls on him. Like you have to recognize where there's a mismatch. You have to recognize where the pressure's coming from and sense it and do that. And guess what? Also, with him getting hurt, I get it. You're so athletic, Daniel Jones. Slide more. Just make smarter plays where you won't get hit as much. You don't get sacked as much if you stepped up into the pocket and avoided the rush and throw the ball away. Whatever. But you can do a lot to prevent all of these things.
Yeah.
And the fact that we all came here and we all brought up 3 different points as to our doubts for Daniel Jones, and we're in year 4 is
that's insane.
I think that's pretty much going, you know what, we're in year 4. We've all got these very similar doubts, or at least these very major doubts that can all be tied into a couple of things. I think that's one of the reasons that I can look at him and go, he's not going to be the guy.
Yo, Brandon, you brought up one great point about Daniel Jones just doesn't throw the ball away enough. It's crazy because I started watching the Bills games just to get an idea sort of what Dabo's offense is all about. And a lot of it, honestly, I got scared because I was like, yo, Josh Allen creates so much plays. It's not even a scheme thing. It's Josh Allen himself. But one thing that people don't talk about enough about Josh Allen is that man throws the ball away when it's not there. Dude, he does not force a lot of stuff. And that's the most underrated thing I think that Josh Allen has. And we just don't have that here. And that's that.
One thing that allows him to do that is that bazooka he has attached to his torso. Because if he's right, he can flick of the wrist, get it to the sideline and out of bounds.
Yeah, no, that's true.
That's one of the things where when you look at a franchise guy and you look at, what can he do what Josh Allen does? Can he do what Pat Mahomes does? Daniel Jones can't. And I'm at the point where I used to go, you know what? If I have an Alex Smith type and a good enough team around him, I can win. I'm at the point where now you look at the 2022 NFL. I don't know how consistently you can win without a top 10 quarterback.
Bingo. Great point, man. We're going into the top of the hour right now, so we're gonna do a quick rapid fire. Brandon, just gonna ask you quick. Like I'm gonna mention some positions, and then you let me know kind of like what round we'll be looking at these guys, and give me some names of possibly some guys that we could get to. I'm a big middle linebacker fan. I feel like we don't have the middle linebacker that could go from sideline to sideline. We have an elite run stopping. Hopefully after the injury, he's like this too in Blake Martinez. But when it comes to the pass coverage, we don't have anything at that position. Where can we get a middle linebacker that's going to do that job for us? And in what round? Can we give me some possible names or whatnot?
I think all over the draft, you can get someone like that from around 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can go with someone like Brian Asamoah from Oklahoma is a sideline to sideline linebacker. We saw him in Mobile. Terrell Bernard is someone that I really, really like. I like all these Baylor players. You look at Jalen Petrie, you look at JT Woods, you look at Kalen Barnes, and I'm not just like, ooh, they're fast. That's awesome. No, it's Terrell Bernard is a sideline to sideline linebacker in that Dave Aranda, Ron Roberts defense for Baylor, which is one of the most complex defenses in college football. So if I'm looking for a middle linebacker that could do it all, that could play pass coverage, is proven in playing pass coverage, and can still run sideline to sideline, I'm looking at someone like Terrell Bernard, who was the green dot for that Baylor defense, for that one of the most complex defenses in college football. You could look at someone like Troy Anderson, just an elite, fast,
insane.
linebacker.
Insane.
Yeah. And I think get him. He's probably going to go a little higher than he should. He's probably going to go late day 2, early day 3. He's not someone that I'm super high on. He's just an athlete at this point.
Broke a whole bunch of like the middle linebacker records in terms of like his combine workouts or something like that. Yeah.
Yep. And you can look at Channing Tindall and Quay Walker, both from Georgia. They're both elite sideline to sideline guys. And we spoke about this off air. You look at Georgia's defense this past year. The biggest thing that changed with them was that they had a bunch of athletes and a bunch of guys that were just so smart and had such a high football IQ. And that's what they were. They were elite athletes that were geniuses on the football field. And I think if you could add that late, then you do it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Tight end. What about tight end?
Tight end, I think goes either Iowa State guys, Charlie Kohler or Dr. Chase Allen. Charlie Kohler and Chase Allen they're both big guys. They're not super athletic. They're not Evan Ingram. And by that I mean they can actually catch a football, but they're not super athletic. They know how to run block. They're really, really talented run blockers. You look at Iowa State the past few years, and they've had Tom Manning as their offensive coordinator. Tom Manning was also the Indianapolis Colts tight ends coach when Jack Doyle and Eric Ebron had that insane year as a duo. And you look at Charlie Kohler and Chase Allen from Iowa State, and you're looking at two players that play the same position that were both 4-time all-conference players.
That's crazy.
Like, they are insanely talented guys. Red zone threats, run blockers, pass protectors, and they're safety blankets. They're not going to stretch the seam a ton. I don't care. You can get probably Chase Allen in the 7th round or as an undrafted free agent at that point.
He's 6'7", dude. He has like freaking huge. Holy crap.
Hey, Kohler is like 6'6" too. He's a skyscraper as well.
Yo, my dream is we find the next Gronkowski, bro, to be honest. Like, I don't need a fast guy anymore. I just want a guy that if you throw him the ball up, he's going to just bare hands and freaking just engulf it, man.
Yeah, give me that.
I want to be a red zone threat. That's what I want.
I'm not too concerned with the blocking, though, to be honest, because I don't think because 22 NFL, it's more about passing, and you're not gonna ask the tight end to block like Knox, for example. I from what I've seen from Knox is a great blocker, but he's asked to run a lot of routes, and in my opinion, I think next year we're gonna see Dawson Knox even used even more. I think that he was not utilized to his fullest extent in the Bills. I think we're gonna see another evolution of that kid. So I want to see. I'm not interested in speed necessarily. Like I'm not obsessed anymore as I was about the speed at tight end, but I do want to see like size and I want to see ability to catch, just catch in traffic. That's definitely what we need in the Giants right now, man.
Yeah, definitely. If I can ask, safety. We let Logan Ryan go, so that's a need as well. You mentioned J.T. Woods from Baylor, Jalen Patry. Is there any other safeties you're looking at?
There's a lot. I like this safety class.
Really?
And I'm someone who safety is my favorite defensive position to scout. I love watching them. You've got guys like Reed Blankenship from Middle Tennessee State University is a fantastic center field type safety. Colby Harvell Peel is your ideal box safety out of Oklahoma State. He was a couple of years ago one of the better safeties in college football. Dropped off a little bit, but if you can get him back to that top flight level, then you've got a great box safety, a ton of experience with cover three. You've got Tyson Anderson from Toledo, who is a freak athlete. He was the fourth fastest guy training at his facility because he trained with Tariq Woolen from Texas UTSA, who ran that 4.26. He
Yeah.
ran Kalen Barnes. He ran with Tyquan Thornton. Tyson Anderson ran a 4.36, and he was the fourth fastest player at his training facility. Like it was just insane speed there. He could play the box safety. He could play out wide. He could play slot corner. He could play deep safety. He's done so much. Greg Eisworth is another very versatile safety. Iowa State. He played for 5 years. He was a 3-year captain, if I'm not mistaken. Great run defense. An insane mind. That Iowa State defense was just very, very talented. You got Joey Blunt from Virginia, someone who's gone under the radar. I know he spoke with the Chargers. He spoke with the Cardinals. He's someone who also is a very high IQ safety that can play in the box and play the deep safety spot. And I think you're looking for someone who can be versatile, who can be smart and kind of command that defense at a certain point where I mean, even if you can't command the defense, if you could be a special teamer that rotates on, like when the Giants had Michael Thomas a few years ago at safety,
Yeah.
like if you get that late in the draft or undrafted, I think any of these guys could do that. But there obviously are some that have their specialties. I mentioned Reed Blankenship is primarily a center field type. Colby Harvell Peel and Greg Eisworth, they ran a lot of cover three buzz in both of their schools in the Big 12. They do that a lot out of that 3-3-5 stack. So you see them kind of work the box a bit. But I mean, you can get a role player here.
I like it, man. That was a great breakdown, and I mean, I didn't, that's a lot of late. That's like a lot of late day two, early day three.
Possibilities.
And yeah, real quick, can I just ask interior line?
I was
Who
gonna
do you
say
like?
like any guards out there that could
Guard,
land on the
center,
Giants.
I'm assuming you mean late. Um, I
like
think
second,
I
third round.
I think this is one of those drafts where if you're looking at second, third round, if you can get someone like Zion Johnson, who's, I mean, now getting hyped to go late first round, but I don't know if that really happens. He's someone who people are kind of thinking, oh, he could play center in the NFL because he played great guard and he was at a JUCO before that, and he lit that up, and then he went to Boston College and he lit that up and became a 2-year captain, and he went to the Senior Bowl and he lit that up, but I mean, there's only so many guys that can go in the first round, and it seems like we're at that point of the draft cycle where there's 60 guys who are going in the top 45, guaranteed. And guess what? That can't happen. So we talk about that. You talk about Ed Ingram from LSU is someone that I like. I think he's got a lot of talent. Jamari Salyer from Georgia is someone that's very talented. I think he could play for this. I think he could play in this scheme very well. There's a lot of guys that I like, but I just don't know if they're fits for the Giants. Like Lasita Smith out of Virginia Tech is. I don't think he'd be a good fit in this offense. I think he's a little too light. I don't think he's got enough anchor or anything like that. So I think there are a few guys who I really like, but I'm just not sure if they're great fits for this offense. But I think if you're looking for an interior offensive lineman, you can get them. You can look at someone like Brock Hoffman from Virginia Tech is probably going to go midday three, and you can get someone who can play both guard spots and he could play center. So you're even if you're not looking for a starter, because again, it's hard to find starters day three UDFA,
Right.
but you can get a guy who could at the very least be a depth player wherein you look at an offensive line and you go, okay, we could bring 7 or 8 offensive linemen into any given game day on our active roster. So that's why you see so many backup offensive linemen that they play multiple positions because if you're only bringing 7 or 8, which you could bring more, but if you're only bringing seven or
You're only
eight,
suiting
uh,
up.
then you've
Right.
got someone that could be versatile and play multiple spots where if you lose anybody in that interior three, Brock Hoffman can step in and be that person. So I think he's someone that I really like there, and he's also he is a hilarious person. I haven't we didn't interview him this year, but I spoke to him last year, and he is a hilarious person. I know that at his combine and or at his pro day and at the workouts, I know that he's spoken to a lot of NFL teams.
All right, sounds good. Brandon, one more thing before we let you get out of here, man. Tell me sleepers, man. Tell me guys that they're, if it's even if it's one, if you got one, that's fine. But tell me a guy that nobody's really talking about that you're like, yo, I hope this guy lands on the Giants, man.
There's I can think of two probably off the top of my head.
Okay.
We've got Mike Harley, a receiver from Miami. He's probably going to go undrafted. He's very thin, but he's Miami's career receiving leader. He got it this year in his last game, if I'm not mistaken. He set the record, but he's kind of small, but he's fast. He's got soft hands. He's a quick route runner. He's like a pure slot receiver. Like he's not going to be the X receiver over here, but he's someone who you can get him the ball in space or get him the ball quick on a little whip route, and he can make a play there. And then at running back slash receiver slash return specialist, you can get someone like Treston Ebner from Baylor, who he's, if I'm not mistaken, a three-time All-Conference player. He's had multiple return touchdowns the past few seasons, multiple receiving touchdowns, multiple rushing touchdowns. He's someone who you look at when Baylor had Charlie Brewer and when they had JaMychal Hasty, who's now with the San Francisco 49ers. I believe it was the 2020 draft. You had that duo of Treston Ebner and JaMychal Hasty, and Abram Smith is still playing linebacker, the other Baylor running back. But you've got Treston Ebner as someone who can contribute as a rusher, receiver, and returner, and he's not a great pass protector. But he's purely depth at that point. He's probably going to go undrafted or day three somewhere. But he's someone who I think special teams ability alone could get drafted and could be worth it.
Awesome, brother. That's man. We need as much help as possible. So if we do get your sleepers, man, I would love to see that, man. Our what? Let me ask you a question real quick. What do you think about our wide receiver room before I let you go out of here? Do, should the Giants be looking at wide receivers in the first three rounds, or it's just like, yo, listen, that's not important right now. Let's focus on other things.
Three rounds, I don't think so. I'm kind of the thought that day three, every team should take a receiver. Just because there are so many. It's like running backs now, where it's like, oh, just wait till day three, get someone, and hope they can contribute.
Right.
It's kind of like the receivers now. There's so many that are coming out every year being successful, and on day three, you've got those character concern guys that fall, and it's like, do it. But I think right now I don't think that they should be looking for it rounds 1 through 3. I think this is a team with just too many holes right now. The foundation has been improving. I'll give them that credit. Andrew Thomas was a pick that worked out better than I thought it would. The defense is just. I mean, I love the scheme that we're going to be running. But I think that you shouldn't prioritize wide receiver in this year's draft, especially when there's going to be consistently successful guys. I'm also kind of the franchise building thought of you build the roster and then you get your quarterback. And if we're at the point where we're like, okay, we're going to give Daniel Jones one more year, then I don't think you need to focus on that. You need to focus on his biggest issue, which was his protection. That killed him his entire career. His protection has killed him. So I think that you look at that and you try to improve that, and you go, all right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to give him the best chance to win. He doesn't need more weapons. That's not giving him the best chance to win. That's not what he needs. He's got enough. But he does need some help on the offensive line side protecting him. So I think that you don't prioritize receiver right now. You got too many other needs elsewhere.
Absolutely, brother. Manny, you got anything else before we wrap it up?
And Brandon, I appreciate you for coming on. Where can people find your work, and where can people find what you do? Because you also mentioned you got a live drive stream coming up next week.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter. It's WNS_Brandon. Monday through Friday, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts, you can get Locked On Gators, which is all about the Florida Gators. But every time there's a Gator that connects with the Giants, we talk about that. But we got the live draft show. We haven't figured out where we're streaming it from yet because we do it with RD Media, which is with Rev Deuce Wyndham on Twitter. He's a great guy. He's a great Saints focused reporter, but he's awesome. We did a live stream with him last year. Haven't decided yet if it's going to be on the Whole Nine YouTube or if it's going to be on Deuce's RD Media. But hey, that's what we're going to be doing every single day. And if it's anything like last year, which I'm hoping it will be, on day 3, we will be breaking UDFA signings live on air. In the sense of like I had agents texting me to announce where their players were signing.
That's awesome, bro.
So
That's
that's what
awesome.
we did last year. That's what we're hoping to do again this year.
All right, man. I'm definitely gonna pay attention to you whenever you do get that information because I definitely want to creep in and watch you guys. Do some draft coverage this year coming up next weekend. Yeah, man, Manny, what's going on, man? Anything you want to go ahead and say to the people watching before we wrap it up?
Thank you guys for tuning in. We're 1 week away.
Yes.
The next show we do will be the last show we do before we draft somebody. Super excited. Brandon, thank you once again for coming on. Antonio, gracias.
All right, man. Brandon, thank you so much, bro. And anybody who watched, man, anybody who's watching this, shout out to you guys. I'll have the link in the description for how you get in contact with Brandon through Twitter, through his own podcast and stuff, guys. So don't worry about that. It's all going to be in the description. For Brandon, for Manny, I'm Tone, man. Thank you so